Decedent? Sir, what's with the camera?
I'm news media.
Remove the camera from the courtroom. Right now.
So allegedly in Washington, you cannot sue under a power of attorney for a family member? That's crazy. I've done it myself in Connecticut, and it's also lawful in Ohio. I study those two jurisdictions. So if it's different here, then there's a conflict of laws, and we move on to a different venue. And that's what's going to happen. I'll follow the case once I find competent counsel for this family. Coverage. So I will definitely be back in touch with you. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Do you represent Zurich or anything in this case?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do.
Is it Zurich's contention that they don't have a right to represent the estate?
There's no hearing today. I'm here to observe.
Okay.
There's no hearing.
But regardless of that, is it Zurich's position that as a power of attorney, she doesn't have the right to...
Read the pleadings.
Okay.
Read the pleadings.
I've read some of the pleadings, and I do understand that Zurich had the power of attorney but didn't forward it to the court.
Read the pleadings.
Okay. I'll do that.
All right. I'm here just observing today.
That's fine, but your name is?
Leslie.
Yeah, Chris King. I may have sent you the notice of media coverage. So I will definitely be back in touch with you. Yes.
Okay.
I'm already suing him over refusing the right to video in his court, all right? So, and we're not even in his court. We're in a public hallway. Yeah, we're in a public hallway.
You do not have my permission to be filming me out in the...
Oh, well, we'll take that up with... You want to get a restraining order on me? Go for it.
Power attorney for her daughter.
Yes.
And I put that in there, and then I also noticed...
But let's back up so people understand.
Right.
You basically were the power... You not basically, you were the power of attorney, and everybody knows that gives you the right to sue on their behalf and to represent them.
Right.
However, they try to force you into being just the representative of the estate, which puts a cap at $100,000 for this tragic accident. Now, let's tell everybody first, what's your name?
Margaret Sue Boscos.
Now, Ms. Boscos, you've been in contact with me because you saw the video I've done about Judge Rumbaugh violating the First Amendment and General Rule 16 that compels an analysis before you reject court coverage from news media.
Right.
Now, in this instance, you have an aunt who was critically injured, fatally injured, in an incident where she was on she was supposed to be...
She's on paratrans.
Paratrans, yes. And they did not properly secure her wheelchair, correct?
That's right.
And what happened next?
Well, what happened was, here she is. She did not properly secure her wheelchair. They're driving and speeding around a curve, and when they sped around the curve, they negotiated this turn, and the wheels flipped up and over, and she landed on her head. And she broke her neck. She heard her neck snap. And so she's screaming and she's crying, and the driver's saying, oh, and she says, do not touch me. So no means no. I don't care if you're getting raped. I don't care if you got an injury. No means no.
You need paramedics there.
That's right.
First
and
responders.
She says, stop. And so he says, I just got my license back. And so that was interesting because you just got your license back, and then he tells him, I have a daughter. And she says, don't touch me. He touches her, and he picks her up. And she said, there's a fire station right there. Take me to the fire station. He ignores her. He picks her up, puts her on the bench, wipes the blood off her face, and then he puts her back into the chair. And then what he does is he buckles her in to the chair, and then he ignores her cry for help. And you can imagine how she's feeling. So he said, I can't, my daughter, just got my daughter, got a new baby, I'm gonna go. And she says, take me back. She's crying, she's screaming, she has no help. And she's thinking, okay, what is happening to me? 1 minute, no, 2 minutes, 10. When's this other hospital? She goes through the hospital, and I think it was Clare Hospital. What was the name of the hospital? St. Clair Hospital. She passes St. Clair Hospital, and she says, take me there. I won't tell anyone. And he says, no. He takes her to the house, 45 minutes away. He takes her wheelchair, deploys her off of the paratrans, and he's not allowed to put her inside the house. And she's crying, she's begging, just call my daughter, and I promise you, I will not tell. And so he's like, well, with Zurich because they're calling themselves with the life transportation. They are hiding Zurich. But when she said, yeah, I want you to highlight that, Zurich, because Zurich's a multi-trillion-dollar company.
Right.
You can see the games, strategic games that's being played.
So this morning, the judge denied my right to run media and denied me a hearing pursuant to Rule 16,
Right.
General Rule 16, and then went on and told you flat out that the law was clear and that you cannot file anything or represent anybody even though the ADA is implicated,
Right.
and even though you had a full power of attorney. I don't believe that to be true because I've done this myself and I've already researched the case law on it. In my opinion, if it is different in Washington, then you have a right to go to federal court and to proceed on between a conflict of laws between states. So that's what happened this morning. Do you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I'm going straight to the top. Like I said before, I'm a retired colonel, went to war to fight for rights, and too many people fought long and hard for us to have rights, and I'm not going to disappoint them. I'm going all the way to the top.
Yeah, and he sat there and told me that my notice of media coverage was contrived, and I stood up and I said, contrived? This is the same document I've used in hundreds of courtrooms. What are you talking about? And he was flustered. He wouldn't let me go on record. Well, we're on record, so I'm going to order the audio. But yeah, I just think he's loathsome. Thank you. Now, again, as far as this is concerned, as far as the lack of accommodation that was made based on the ADA, because you're representing somebody who has post-traumatic stress disorder and a number of things after watching her mother be gravely injured. And I know Dr. Karen Huffer is involved with this kind of thing where you get people certified and you're allowed to represent people under the ADA.
Right.
And you said you've been working with Dr. Briggs?
Yeah, Dr. Briggs, who wrote the 1990 American Disability Act and helped pass it with President Bush, is following this case, along with Larry Hughes, who was President Obama's advocate for the Wounded Warrior Games and the Olympics. He is a service-disabled veteran who's following this case, and he can't or she can't believe what's going on and what's happening. Under American Disability Act, Title 42, 126, I can represent, as a American Disability individual, I can participate and policies and rules can be adjusted so I can participate as a representative for my cousin, for my aunt. And my constitutional rights were totally disregarded.
Completely vitiated. Yeah, welcome to Judge Rumbaugh's courtroom. Welcome to the Court of Appeal.
Allow me to introduce you to an amazing concept, Your Honor. Just because you don't like my journalism doesn't mean that I'm not entitled to win a Pulitzer for it. And even if I don't win a Pulitzer, guess what? You're not allowed to arbitrarily or capriciously deny me the right to practice it in your courtroom. And you did it again today. And guess what? We're going to have lawyers coming in on this case, on appeal, and probably on a Rule 59 motion or whatever they call it here in this state against you. I don't like you one bit. You don't like me one bit. That's not the point. The point is you still have to follow the law. And you again denied me under Rule 16 when I had filing in my hand. Your attorneys had it. Opposing counsel had it. The way it always works, and probably 40 or 50 times in this state and 100 other times in other states, I walk in, I produce my notice of media coverage, and then I start running video. But you, for some reason, while you're busy violating the ADA and other constitutional and statutory rights, deem it improbable or impossible for me to run video in your courtroom. And for that, you will deal with me for the rest of your natural life, as long as you keep denying me. Are we clear? Good.
To tell me that she had fallen. And I said, well, where are you? And she said, well, I'm in the Pierce Transit. They're taking me home. I was like, tell them to take you to the hospital, because if you've fallen, you need to go to the hospital. And she was like, okay, I'll call you back. And so when she called me back crying, telling me that he wouldn't take her to the fire station that they passed. They wouldn't take her to the hospital, which was right down the street where she fell. And he was going to drop her off at the house. When she got back to my house, because she lived with me, when she got back to our house, she called me and said, he's just going to leave me here on the porch. And I was like, Mom, no, you tell him to call his supervisor and tell him to take you to the hospital. I'll meet you there. I'm going there now. And she said, he won't take me. And then he said, oh, I'll call right now. I'll call right now. And so he ended up taking her to the hospital after after she fell, after he picked her up. I'm a nurse, so I know that if you touch somebody after they fall, that's negligent right there. You're supposed to call 911. You're not supposed to touch them at all.
You need first responders, qualified people to come and take care of that. So eventually, he dropped her off in the parking lot of the hospital. Isn't that right?
Yes. When I got to the hospital, I got there the same time that they did, but I had to park my car. As I was walking up, the nurse was pushing her in, and the driver was already gone. He left her in the front of the emergency room.
That's completely repulsive. And Judge Rumbaugh is protecting that.